Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man. You're listening to The Scoop on OwlScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OwlScoop.com, the authority on Temple athletics. We are on to episode 42 of season 10. I'm your host, John DiCarlo, the editor of OwlScoop.com. This is going to be a bit of an abbreviated episode this week. We could not get the whole crew together, and I wanted to explain why at the outset of the show here. There's a bit of a Temple tie here, and I want to pay tribute to a very special person and a very special family here. The reason we couldn't get the whole crew together this week is because I'm heading out of town soon to Pittsburgh to remember the life of a very, very special person. When I was at Temple, I met one of my best friends, Todd Price. He is now out in suburban Pittsburgh. He's the principal at Montour High School. And Todd and I were very good friends in college, have remained good friends. His father-in-law, Robert Abe Hughes, passed away at his home back on April 28th at the age of 71. Incredible, just wouldn't be the right word to pay tribute to him. When Todd moved out to Pittsburgh, he met his wife, Jill, Abe's daughter. They have three amazing, amazing children, Braden, my goddaughter, Brindley, and Brianna. They're such an amazing, amazing family, and Jill has been following Temple sports because of Todd. I'll get just random text messages from her, whether it's been Temple football, Temple hoops, because they're not far from where, you know, someone like Adam DeMichael played in high school. She just finds like these quirky and funny reasons to check in about Temple sports, and they've become a Temple family. But Abe was an incredible father to Jill and his son Bob, an incredible grandfather to Braden, Brindley, and Brianna, and his other two grandchildren, Addison and Cole. And my heart goes out to them, Abe's daughter-in-law, Gina, and of course, to his wife, Jerry. I'll see them all soon. And special man, special family, and just wanted to remember him at the outset of the pod. He was just one of a kind. Abe, we will miss you. And so many of your friends and family are going to be celebrating your life this week. So I had to just rearrange the schedule a little bit this week, but just wanted to explain why, because I'm going out to spend time with a very special family to remember the life and legacy of an incredible, incredible man, and Abe Hughes. So Abe, we love you. We miss you. Just wanted to give you a shout out on the pod here. And you leave behind an incredible family and an incredible legacy. We love you very much, Abe. We do have, in this episode, I will be playing audio from my interview with Gevani McCoy, Temple's newest quarterback, the Oregon State and technically Texas State transfer, played 3 successful seasons at Idaho, played this past season at Oregon State, transferred after the season to Texas State, hopped back into the portal, and now he's at Temple and is going to be an absolute competition for Evan Simon and maybe perhaps the likely starter this year. You'll hear part of my conversation with Manhattan transfer Masiah Gilyard, who's going to be joining Temple's backcourt. And you'll hear my interview with Maddux Trujillo, the record-setting Temple kicker, who, of course, signed a rookie free agent deal with the Colts. Temple, as you know by now, didn't have anybody drafted in last week's NFL draft. Dante Wright signed as a rookie free agent with the Chiefs, and then DeJuan Black signed with the Ravens. Caught up again with Maddux Trujillo on Sunday. Always a joy to talk to him. And I'll play that interview for you as promised. And we'll provide some basketball and football recruiting updates a little bit later on in the show here. The Scoop, as it always is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company will not be on your side. You need us. Temple law grads will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. Let's get to part of my conversation here with Gevani McCoy. If you're an OwlScoop.com subscriber, you know we've been reporting news of his visit and then, of course, the announcement of his signing, and had a story up a couple of days ago, earlier this week, on Gevani McCoy and his career, how this has kind of come full circle for him. A couple of years ago, he was playing at Idaho as an FCS quarterback and was going up, didn't know it at the time, of course, against his future offensive coordinator, and Tyler Walker, who was on the other side for Montana State. Now they will be united at Temple. We'll have to see how things play out in preseason camp, but Gevani McCoy, they did not bring him in to sit on the bench, and it immediately becomes, at the very least, a serious competition for Evan Simon at the quarterback position, and maybe at the very most, a likely starter heading into the year. So if you're an OwlScoop.com subscriber, you can read my full story on Gevani McCoy and read a lot more about him, watch some highlights on him and of him. I'll play an excerpt of our conversation here, and then after that, we'll head over to listening to part of my conversation with Masiah Gilyard, the Manhattan transfer who is coming in to join Temple's backcourt.
Just for the most part, I would say just the staff and just the atmosphere, and it's just exciting to just be a part of a rebuild. It's something that I've done before, so that was exciting for sure.
Obviously, you've transferred before, and you've taken recruiting visits, and you've played at a high level. When you came to Temple for the visit, was there a moment when you knew, I want to be here?
Yes, sir, for sure. I sat and talked with my dad, and we just talked with the staff and sat there and watched plays for just some time, and it seems like a really good fit. So just from there, I would say so, that we knew that that's where we wanted to be.
I guess it seems like Tyler Walker's offense is almost like tailor-made for you.
For sure. And that was a big part too. I played him in the past, so now we're on the same team. So, that's exciting for sure. And I'm familiar with his schemes and things like that, so it's definitely exciting.
Again, if you're an OwlScoop subscriber, you can go back and read my entire story with Gevani McCoy, the Oregon State and Texas State transfer. He is finishing up this semester at Texas State. Told me he'll probably head home to California for maybe a week at the most, and then come to Philly to get to work. Moving on to some basketball recruiting news. As I mentioned, Masiah Gilyard, the transfer from Manhattan, one of the better rebounding guards in the country, now joins Temple's backcourt. Again, if you've been an OwlScoop subscriber, you've been following along, you've heard about him. Temple's adding a guard who spent his first 2 seasons at Blinn Junior College in Texas. He's from New York originally, but put together a really solid season for Manhattan last year. 11.2 points per game, 7.3 rebounds per game, and was a very efficient shooter, shot almost 50% from the field, a little better than 31% from three-point range, 72 or 73% from the free throw line. And as I mentioned before, one of the nation's better rebounding guards, 13th in the nation of offensive rebounding last year, about 3.5 offensive rebounds per game, and the number 3 guard in that category. So I think you're looking at maybe a Shane Dezonie comp here, maybe the staff, obviously they're always hoping to upgrade, so maybe a better version of Shane Dezonie here. We'll see, of course, but had the chance to talk to Masiah Gilyard a few days ago, and here is part of our conversation. We'll have more after that. Of course, I promised you at the outset of the show my interview with Maddux Trujillo, who signed with the Colts as an undrafted rookie free agent. So let's hear part of my conversation here with Masiah Gilyard, and then we'll get to Maddux Trujillo.
Told them it was very a family atmosphere. It seemed, when I said my quote before, it felt like the right fit for me on and off the court. Coaching staff was very genuine. I didn't get no bad vibes, and then it looked like I was going to have the opportunity to grow as a player, while also being as just such a great program as Temple. And I just felt like it just all aligned.
What made you kind of just zero in on them? What made it click?
I just felt like it was the right time, right circumstance. It just felt like the right thing to do. Other schools was talking to me, and then it just didn't align with my interests, and I'm happy.
What is it about the staff? I know you talked about the family atmosphere. You're one of the better rebounding guards in the country, and you're a really efficient shooter, and I know that's something that they liked about you. When they talked to you, beyond the family atmosphere and stuff, was there just something about when they talked about the play style and the philosophy, was there something that just kind of clicked there where you thought, this is a good situation for me?
Yeah, 100%. And it was just also I'm a huge jokes guy, and I felt like it was just we knew each other when we got around. We were joking, having little funs and laughs. So that's why another reason too.
Who first reached out to you? Do you remember? Was it Adam Fisher or was it one of the assistants?
It was Coach Clark.
What was it about Chris that you liked about him?
Coach Clark, that's my guy. He's just very funny. He seems down to earth. And he was just there helping me through the whole process and talking to me about Temple.
Everybody knows how much effort you put out as a rebounder. Have you always been like that, or was that something that's kind of really, taken off with your game over the last couple of years? I've never had the opportunity to see you play live, but when I look at your highlights, it just really, really stands out.
I say it was more so just like putting in work, like never stopping, never taking plays off, and just being in the right spot, right time. Even from high school, I just never took plays off, and it was always drilled in me like, if you could go get the ball, go get it. Don't wait.
All right, again, that is part of my conversation with Masiah Gilyard. We'll have a more full story coming up in a few days once I get back into town. Of course, several roster spots to be filled there by head coach Adam Fisher and his staff. We'll talk a little bit more hoops in a few minutes after you hear from Maddux Trujillo, of course, Temple's record-setting kicker. You all know by now that he hit field goals of 64 yards and 60 yards earlier this season, kicked really well at the Combine. Did not get drafted. His friend Andreas Borregales from Miami was the only kicker to be drafted. The Patriots took him. So I think you'll hear Maddux tell me here that he kind of had an inkling that he wasn't going to get drafted, but nonetheless lands in a situation with the Colts where he's going to have a chance to come in and compete for the job, because a little more than 2-3 weeks ago, the Colts cut Matt Gay 2 years into a lucrative 4-year contract. At the time, was the largest and most lucrative contract signed by an NFL place kicker. So the Colts added Spencer Schrader last month, and he spent some time with the Chiefs, the Jets, and the Colts in spot duty this past season. But Maddux is going to come in and be in a good spot to compete with him. Obviously, Spencer Schrader has NFL experience that Maddux Trujillo does not have, but all things considered, pretty good landing spot. Kind of ironic because Brandon McManus got his start with the Colts as an undrafted rookie free agent. So it's always great to talk to Maddux. Got to spend some time talking to him as he was driving around outside of Atlanta. So I'm going to play that full interview for you here. Then we'll have some football and basketball updates to close things out. And we'll have a longer show with the full crew, hopefully next week. But here is my interview with former Temple kicker Maddux Trujillo, who is now signed with the Colts. You knew that the NFL was a possibility. I know you didn't get drafted, but that's standard for kickers sometimes. What have the past couple days been like for you, just soaking this in? What does it mean to have this opportunity with the Colts? It looks like a pretty good one for you.
Yeah, it's a pretty good opportunity. I'm super blessed, and I'm super thankful for not only the opportunity Coach Mason and the Colts give me, but the opportunity that God has placed in front of me. I'm really thankful for it, and I'm excited to get up there. It doesn't really feel real, to be honest with you, yet. I feel like it'll all kind of kick in whenever I get there. But at this point, it's just I'm back home still, preparing to go up there. But I was telling Savannah earlier today that it's cool that I can consider myself an NFL kicker right now. That's pretty cool.
We talked about this when you were on the podcast last time. It's you're not playing a position where 10 or 15 guys are going to get drafted. Borregales is the only kicker that got drafted, but I'm sure you eye up certain rosters when you look at what the Colts did, and they brought in Spencer Schrader, but they had cut Matt Gay. Is that one of the teams where you thought you might have a chance because it looked like there was going to be an open competition there?
Yeah, it was kind of late when they cut Matt Gay too. I talked to Coach Mason at the Combine as I talked to every other team, so it didn't really stick out to me a ton. But they seemed to be really interested after the draft in me, and said they'd been following me for a while. And Coach Mason was really fond of how I kicked the football and thought I could beat some really good competition. So it was really a no-brainer for me. It was going to be between, I think, the Patriots and the Colts. So the Patriots ended up taking Andy, who's a close friend of mine. So I'm happy for him, and it made my decision pretty easy.
Yeah, what is that like? Because you've talked about there's you can speak to it, I can't, but from the outside looking in, it seems like there is like a special camaraderie at that position. When he's taken, are you like happy for him at the same time, and you're kind of like, damn, I thought that might be me, but you can't help but be happy for him? Is it like a mix of emotions?
Yeah, it's a little bit, but I'm not too jealous of what Andy has done. Honestly, Andy is very, very talented. He's been at University of Miami for 4 years. He's proven that he's a consistent kicker year after year. So I kind of expected this. I knew that Andy would be one of the guys drafted going into it, so it wasn't necessarily a surprise for me. I mean, we had been together for that entire month of January and into February in Buffalo, and we would hang out and just we'd go do some stuff together. So we had developed a pretty good relationship, and we've been friends since we were about 14, 15 years old. So I'm more happy for him than I am having a bitter taste in my mouth. He deserves everything that's come to him. He's worked his butt off to get to where he is, and I can't be happier for him. I think it's going to work out in the end for all of us. And for me, it's just proving the people wrong that didn't draft me in the first place. I don't have any bitter feelings towards Andy at all. I think it's more not towards NFL teams, but I would much rather have been drafted than not. But I know there's enough room for more than just me and Andy in the NFL, and I know a bunch of good kickers that are going to have a real good shot. So I can't really complain.
You guys have known each other just from going to camps and stuff like that since then?
Yeah, we trained with my kicking coach, Adam Tanowski, for the last, 8 years almost together. Just going back and forth and kind of developed a friendship along those times. So it's been a really good time, and I've enjoyed spending that time with him for sure. What
was watching the draft like? I mean, is it just the ultimate waiting game where you're just sitting there and kind of like, I guess I should really ask you, did you watch it, or were you kind of one of those guys that's like, I'm not going to watch, I'm just going to go, and if I get the call, I'll get the call, and if not, I know I'm going to hear from my agent soon after as a free agent?
Yep. Yeah, I was kind of a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I had a little small gathering of probably 15 people at my house, just closest friends and family there, and I had kind of given them the inclination that I wasn't going to be drafted because I'd gotten that from my agent a couple days prior, and we knew kind of where we were sitting. It was right on that cusp line of like, hey, we could get drafted, we could not. It just depends what falls. So I paid attention to it for sure. I didn't pay attention to the 4th or 5th round as much, but I started keeping my head on a swivel a little bit more towards the end of it. But I was out there, swinging golf clubs to the net, just trying to not be super locked in on it, because at the end of the day, it's going to work out the way it's supposed to, and I'm not trying to keep all of my focus on whether I'm drafted or not. I have a job to do no matter what. It's the same thing whether I'm drafted or I'm not. So it doesn't change a whole ton for me, other than, what the outside views it as.
How does it work? Does your agent call you, or do the Colts just call you directly?
It's both. So after the draft ends, teams are allowed to talk to you and discuss with your agent. So they call my agent first, and my agent called me to tell me, that they were interested in undrafted free agent deals, and I wasn't going to say no to that. So I let them handle the negotiations from there, and then after my agents had handled all of that, I got a call from Coach Mason, and he seemed pretty excited about being able to get me on board. So yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Where were you? Were you still outside swinging golf clubs, or were you sitting back home in the house?
I was outside swinging golf clubs.
And is this like at a course, or were you like in your backyard in Georgia?
No, I got a little net that I hit into in my backyard.
You hang up the phone. What's the first thing that goes through your head? I mean, I know there's a lot ahead. You got to win a job, but like just to savor that moment, what goes through your mind at that point?
For me, at that point, it hadn't really sunk in. It was just like, that's cool. I got a call. All right, I just got to go do a job, whatever. And then I think later that night, it kind of set in a little bit that, oh my gosh, dude, you're going to the NFL. Like, you're going to have a chance to do what you'd always dreamed of doing. And so it was kind of a delayed thing. When I immediately got the call, it was just, all right, I got a job to just lock in, get myself in the right mentality to go up there and win a job. I mean, it's not like it's handed to me in any regard. So I have to go in there and I have to do better than the trader does. So in that regard, I really was just more focused than anything. I didn't give myself time to really appreciate it. That's what my family does really well for me, is they have to remind me, hey, soak in the moment a little bit. This is the time to do it. That's really when it came kind of full circle.
Yeah. What's next for you in terms of next steps? Like, when do you actually head out there and meet with the team and get ready for, I guess, whatever the first installation of camp is?
Yeah, I head out there May 8th. When I'm either going to drive or fly. I don't know what I'm doing quite yet. I think I might drive because I have my car, but it's either here June 12th.
Okay. Do you talk to someone like Brandon McManus, like actually like had his path into the NFL in that way? Like, do you talk to someone like him, or do you talk to other guys? Because so many kickers that are kicking in the league now came in as undrafted rookie free agents. Have you had the chance to talk to Brandon or anybody else about like just what the process is like?
Not a big fan of, but I have several friends that are in the NFL that have put in good words with me too, and I'm in constant communication with guys like Blake Irby at the Saints, Jake Bates at the Lions, Cam Little at the Jaguars. Those three guys are kind of the closest in the NFL to me, and guys that I use as sounding board for any questions that I might have. I think Blake is an awesome guy, and actually his coach, Coach Mason, at the Colts was his college special teams coordinator, and kind of he put in a good word for me at the Colts. So it is a small community, and it's nice to be able to bounce those things off of each other.
If you hear your name drafted, that's got to be a really cool thing. But for you in your situation, is there almost something like just as good or even better about going in as an undrafted rookie free agent, because then you can have time to think about it and say, okay, this fit makes sense because I have a chance to go in there. Like, let's say for argument's sake, like the Eagles drafted you, but you might be thinking, all right, well, maybe they're bringing me in as like a kickoff specialist because, Jake Elliott's there. Like, is there something that's just as good because you get to really determine the fit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a lot of the reason why being one of the first undrafted free agents is kind of awesome because you get your pick. You get to pick what situation you're going into, and that's a huge advantage because you can pick who you're competing with. You can pick the environment that you're going to. You have a lot of control in that regard, and it just makes it a lot easier. So for me, it was kind of a no-brainer with the Colts. You're kicking indoors, which is awesome. I mean, it plays to my advantage in that regard too. I'm usually used to kicking in the lane where it's kind of windy, so it's going to be a nice reprieve and go out there and just focus on hitting the straightest ball possible.
I haven't had a chance to talk to you since the combine. It looks like you kicked really well out there. We've talked about this before. You seemed like a pretty unflappable guy. What was that experience like? It looks like from the outside looking in, it looks like you handled it really well. And if you were nervous, it didn't really show.
Yeah, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. But at the end of the day, like Coach Shire does a good job reminding me, my parents do. Being me is what got me there, and being me is what's going to keep me there. There's a reason that they're interested, that seems like the Colts are interested in me, because I just go out there and I don't think. I go out there and I just do what I know to do, and it's going to work out the way that it should. All I can do is control the amount of effort that I put in, and the results will come, naturally.
Well, one last question for you. In covering spring ball, I think the last time you and I talked, you had said something. I'm obviously not quoting you directly on this. You'd said something like, if I'd never ended up at Temple, I think they would have been just fine with Carl Harden. So every spring practice was open to us, and Carl kicked the ball really well. Lucas Glassburn kicked the ball really well. Even Darren Wu kicked the ball really well. Have you had the chance to just check in with those guys? Because all three of them had a pretty solid spring, and especially when you watch Carl, the ball comes off his foot. It looks pretty tried and true when he kicks it. Have you had a chance to check in with those guys? It looks like if there was going to be a year where they lost, one of the best kickers in the country, it looks like they might be in pretty decent shape without you.
Yeah, I talk to him, I would like to say a couple times a week. I mean, as much as I possibly can. Those guys are really close friends of mine. They're like brothers to me, so I talk to him as much as I possibly can. Carl is, I'll say it until I turn blue in the face, he's one of the best kickers that I've been around. He's incredibly talented. He loves kicking. He has a passion for it like no one else. I mean, sometimes he kicks more than I do. And he's incredibly talented, and I'm really excited to see what he can do, because at the end of the day, it just comes down to the mental, and I think he's got that part as well. So I'm really excited. I think Lucas Glassford is also fantastic. He's had a great spring, and he's been able to get more team reps than in the past, and I think that's really helped him. So I'm really excited, and Darren as well, adding him to the team has, I think, lit a fire under the both of them, Carl and Lucas, just to do the best that they can and kind of created a better competitive environment, not in a toxic way at all, because they're all super close friends and they're all buddies, as well as I am a buddy with Darren, but it's definitely been great competition, and people are improving very quickly. So I think we have the best kicker special teams group in the country. We have a lot of depth there, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
All right, thanks to Maddux for taking some time to talk. Like I said, always a pleasure to talk to him. As I mentioned earlier in the pod, you can go to OwlScoop.com to check out the full story with Gevani McCoy, a couple of updates that we may not have discussed or haven't had the chance to discuss since last week's episode. Temple also announced the signing of Arkansas Pine Bluff offensive lineman transfer C.J. Van Buren. They also announced the signing of former Delaware wide receiver JoJo Bermudez. Again, I just want to tip my hat to Kyle. If you are an OwlScoop subscriber and you've been following assistant editor Kyle Gauss's work, you know that you're going to be up to date and ahead of the curve on Temple football recruiting news. You've heard by now about JoJo Bermudez, about C.J. Van Buren. Kyle has another story up on the site now with a list of the most current names who are coming to campus this week, along with a younger quarterback, maybe more of a developmental guy. Like we said, it looks like Gevani McCoy and Evan Simon are going to be competing for the starting job there, but Temple did promise to bring in more quarterback depth there. So a couple of Power 4 transfer possibilities, 3 that I can count there. But if you're an OwlScoop.com subscriber, you're not missing out. If you are not an OwlScoop.com subscriber and you're a big Temple football fan, you are missing out. You're always going to stay ahead of the curve on the latest recruiting news. So if you go to OwlScoop.com and click on that subscribe button, we're going to make sure it is well worth your money. Because like I said, there are going to be more roster updates to come. So we will continue to keep you updated with the best and most accurate and latest recruiting information. On the basketball front, Adam Fisher now has 7 scholarship players heading into next year. More to be done there, of course. A really intriguing addition in Jemai Felt from Bowling Green, a guy who was coming off of consecutive ACL tears. And he finally got the chance to play this past season, ended up being the Mid-American Conference's leading shot blocker. So Temple has long since needed a rim protector. If Mo Keita continues to develop, great. But if you're not banking on that, you have to bring in somebody who can help in that department. And it looks like Temple got someone like that in Jemai Felt, a 6'10", 210-pound forward from Bowling Green. He had originally signed with the Falcons when Michael Huger, who is Adam Fisher's associate head coach, was leading that program. And, prior to being able to play this past season, 2 separate ACL tears that cost Jemai Felt 2 seasons. Just a lot of bad luck there. Finally got on the court last November and led the MAC with 46 block shots, shot almost 65% from the floor, 5.7 points and 6.3 rebounds per game. MAC all-freshman team player, so pretty good addition here. You can see, again, the connection with Michael Huger, getting someone who was part of his former program at Bowling Green. And Jemai Felt is also a player from New York City, from Our Savior Lutheran in the Bronx. Left-handed player, a nice addition there for Temple. Obviously, they lost several key players in the portal and are losing several key players who are out of eligibility now. Of course, Jamal Mashburn Jr. We mentioned Shane Dezzoni earlier. Matteo Piccarelli, Steve Settle. They need players, so they have added Jemai Felt, Masiah Gilyard, and of course Gavin Griffiths, a former top 25 player who started off at Rutgers and then transferred to Nebraska, was injured part of last season. So you can see here that Temple is looking for a combination of older players. They're trying to bring in guys where they feel like they can capitalize on some potential. Gavin Griffiths, has he made the most of his last 2 seasons and made good on his former top 25 ranking? No, certainly not. But I think Adam Fisher and his staff, it's clear here that they are hoping and thinking and believing that they can bring the best out of a guy who was a former top 25 recruit, who can shoot the ball, has some size, has some length. So we'll see what happens there. Again, we will have hopefully the whole crew together next week and have a mailbag for you. Get back to a more expanded show. Thanks for sticking with us for this one. And we will talk to you soon. I'm sure we'll have more football recruiting editions to talk about, maybe a basketball edition or 2. So again, thanks to all of our listeners. Our listenership is up. More downloads, more listens. Really, really appreciate you guys engaging with the pod. If you haven't subscribed yet, we are available on all the major podcast platforms. If you can give us a rating, give us a review on Apple Podcasts or any of the major platforms, helps us just elevate the presence of Temple Sports Talk on all those platforms. So thanks to all of you for listening, and we will talk to you soon.